Hi, good people, and praise the Lord. I hope you're good in the Lord. I am, at which I give God all the glory. Parents, and even future parents, I hope authoritarian type of parenting style is something we'll desist completely. Let's see these children as human beings in a way. Yes, we'll give rules, we'll give structures, but at the same time, we are giving them an opportunity to express themselves. Then there is an involved parents, people of God. These are absent parents. They provide basic needs, but detached and absent. And especially this era where we are saying they are career women and career men. Oh, may God help us that will not become uninvolved parents. That even when our children need us, we tell them, ni nini unakosa? What are you lacking? You have everything, food, shelter, and clothing. But parenting is not all about providing the basic needs. Yes, the basic needs is part of the package, but being there for our children emotionally, spiritually is important. And in uninvolved parents, children are left like to parent themselves. Sometimes you'll see a child who is behaving like an adult and they are very young, and people will think, hey, this is a good thing that this one is behaving more mature than their age. Behind that, you may find an uninvolved parent, and now that child, when they skip that milestone of being children, exploring life, just playing and everything, in adulthood, they may regress to do some of the things that they were supposed to do when they were young. As I'm sharing, people of God, I hope we understand how deep, how diverse, how serious parenting is. In fact, even in my premarital classes, one of the topics that I don't skip is parenting, in the hope that maybe you'll become biological parents in the future. And even if not biological parents, because I said it's not a must you have a biological child for you to be a parent. There are so many ways, even surrogacy, adopting, and many other means. We can parent children who are desperate in need of love, care, and nurturing. I hope we will not become an involved parent by just giving them basic needs, when that nurturing and that love is the best gift, that presence is the best gift we can give our children. Then there is the permissive type of parenting, people of God. These ones have high responsiveness and low demandingness. What that means is, if a child wants something, they are given. But demanding is now adherence to rules, structures, and everything. Permissive type of parents allow children to operate like from a free gear mode. They are more like friends to parents, to their children. And I don't mean that we should not be friends with our children, people of God. We should be friends with our children, but at the same time, they should know that we are authority figures in their lives. Because if our children does not see us as authority figure, they see us just as friends, they will struggle with authority even in adulthood. That's why that balance is critical, people of God, of you're parenting your child. Yes, you are being friends with them, but are you teaching them in the future to recognize authority, to follow structures, to follow rules? Because they'll not only be in the family systems forever, they'll be in school, they'll be in workplaces. And now we are talking even about the rule of the law. In every nation, there are rules and structures that govern a nation. These are the children that they break rules, they do, and even many will be involved in crimes and many of those things, people of God, because they are not conversant with authority. People of God, I don't want to make this video so long, for I want us to have that moment of self-introspection, to understand parenting is not just giving birth to children and just bringing them, giving them food and everything. Our voice tonation, our body language, our nurturing we really influence these children in who they become in the future. And we can be used to either make our children or break them. As a parent, as a future parent, will you be the person that the enemy will use to break your children? For children, you can easily be able to nurture them and mold them in the ways of the Lord. And now I'm going to the spiritual dimension of the conversation. People of God, I had a conversation with a friend recently. She's a born-again, spirit-filled, and her perception about parenting is something maybe I don't agree with. Because to her, she says that children are born of natural act. And as we all know the principle of conception and what happens for children to be born. And that's why, child of God, anytime I'm having a conversation, I talk about spirituality and everything. I say, your perception about spirituality, the information or the knowledge you have pertaining spirituality will influence your actions, your thought patterns, your behaviors and everything. For those people who don't believe children come from God, is just a natural act and everything, this part of the conversation, they'll not be able to understand it. But now to us who know that life is spiritual, those people who think life is not spiritual is because there is that aspect of trying to compartmentalize life. That is that there is what is spiritual, what is sacred, and what is secular, or what is carnal. But to me, I believe in God. We live, move, and find our being. He's in us, at the same time He's outside us. So everything to me is spiritual. How I make friends, how I meet people, what I'm doing today, the career that I'm in, everything to me is spiritual. And that's why all the time I'm like, what is God saying about this situation? And now when it comes to children and parenting, to me, they are a gift from the Lord. And ultimately, we find that in scriptures. Last time I said, people of God, when I talk scriptures, to Christians is the Bible. But in the psycho-spiritual mandate, personally, I respect people's spirituality. When I talk about sacred scriptures, there are those who use Bhagavad Gita. There are those who use Quran. There are those who use other forms of scriptures. But because I'm a Christian, by the grace of God, I love using the Bible. I'll just read two verses. One, Psalms 127, verses 3 to 5. And it says, "Behold, children are a heritage from the Lord. The fruit of the womb a reward. As arrows are in the hands of a warrior, so are the children of one's youth." Verses 5, "Happy, blessed, and fortunate is the man whose quiver is filled with them. They will not be put to shame when they speak with their adversaries, that is in the gatherings and at the city gate." People of God, as I say, to me, I believe children are a gift from the Lord. And even those who don't have biological children, the Lord has blessed them with many children. It just takes you opening your eyes and realizing that being a parent, it's not only when you have them biologically. There are children in children's home. Their mother died at birth. Others have been picked from the streets. Those children need parents. Which parents and where are these parents? That's why to people maybe struggling with some of these fertility issues, conception issues and everything, you can consider to parent another soul, because Jeremiah 1:5, "I knew before I formed you in your mother's womb and ordained you to be a prophet." Every child that lands in this physical realm have a divine purpose. Will you co-work with God in actualizing that purpose by nurturing and caring for those children? Verses 4 says, "As arrows in the hands of a warrior, so are the children in one's youth." And anytime I read this verse, I see the arrows. One, an arrow, for it to be an arrow, is not just a normal stick. An arrow have been sharpened, have been shaped, have been developed for it to become an arrow. And for our children to become arrows, sharp objects, it takes a lot of nurturing, a lot of caring, a lot of instructing, a lot of molding, a lot of loving for them to become these arrows in the hands of the warrior. But now when we come to the hands of the warrior, an arrow that is in the hands of an untrained warrior can be disastrous. If you were to give a small child an arrow, they will shoot people, they will cause a lot of havoc and a lot of damage, people of God. That's why even when it comes to parenting, we have to move from that point of ignorance of saying there is no manual. Small children giving birth to children, as much as truthfully it is a reality in the society, this is an arrow in the hands of an untrained warrior. And that's why we have to continue even sensitizing people of God pertaining parenting classes, gaining knowledge in knowing how to bring up our children. And because this now is a spiritual conversation, training them in the way of the Lord. For I said, if this child is a gift from the Lord, the manual, the end of this child is in God's heart and mind. But how do we know about it? That's why we need to understand the whole counsel of God for humanity, starting in childhood, in youth, and even in adulthood. For it is in that space that we will be able to make our children arrows, not blunt objects. By nurturing, we will shape them to become arrows. And now an arrow, for it to serve its purpose, it is shot by someone. Imagine this verse is showing us how critical our responsibility is as parents, because we've been given the mandate as we co-work with God in shooting our children to the spaces that God has ordained them to be. As great as their destiny is, if we will not co-work with God in molding them, in helping them, in shaping them, they may never become fully what God ordained them to be, unless now by the mercies of God. And at the same time, people of God, a warrior is someone who is courageous. You have to be courageous as a parent, to take risk, to be bold in the Lord, knowing that God has entrusted you with the destiny, and you will be courageous no matter the storms of life, to make sure that this child become all that God ordained them to be. In the mind and the heart of God, two parents, and even psychologically, helps when they collaborate and they work together. They bring up functional children.